This is Module 2 of the ASQ series. Here we will review how to analyze and interpret data gathered from the ASQ3 and the ASQ SE2 assessment tools. We will look at how reports can be generated to aid the classroom teacher or provider with organized information to use in planning and to share with other educators. For information on the implementation of the ASQ questionnaires, please see the Kansas Kindergarten Readiness website identified in handout number 5. To begin, as you recall, the information summary sheet is the scoring form for the ASQ3. It provides a complete summary of the questionnaire information and the child's results. Each unique age interval has its own unique information summary, like age range, child and family information, and other options. The ASQ3 summary sheet includes overall questions about language development concerns, behavioral concerns, articulation concerns. It's important to know that the normative sample used to establish ASQ3 cutoff scores reflects the U.S. population. While the normative sample includes children across races, the majority of children in the sample were Caucasian. Since culture is sometimes related to race, this could be a consideration when working with children who are not Caucasian. And culture can affect the developmental expectation of parents, as well as the type and number of opportunities that children are provided to practice certain skills. It's important to take this into consideration when interpreting questionable results. If a question is inappropriate or a family doesn't wish to answer it, it can be omitted. You can still get valid results with up to 2 missing items per area. Now, let me explain more about what that normative sample means. This diagram represents a standard bell curve and illustrates how a general population may perform on an in-depth standardized assessment. The percentages of the population reported in each section of this bell curve are theoretical and not based on the ASQ3 research. It is shown to illustrate the concept of means and standard deviations. A standard deviation is a term used for the amount of variability on a test score. It usually is just a number, like 10 points. Sometimes standard deviations are large, or they can be quite small, depending on how much scores in a particular sample deviate from the mean. They are determined through a statistical procedure that looks at the variability of scores between people taking a test. Sometimes there is a lot of variability, and sometimes there is very little. In research on the ASQ, some domains had a very small standard deviation, like gross motor, but others were quite large, like communication and fine motor. On the ASQ3, the cutoffs are set at 2 standard deviations below the mean. Look at what this looks like in the scoring graphic. The dark shaded area is below the cutoff. The monitoring zone is set at 1 to 2 standard deviations below the mean, or the lightly shaded area. Any score above the monitoring zone would be considered in the average range. This is the area without shading. When reviewing this information, be sure not to equate the dark shaded area on the ASQ3 scoring graphic with the word fail. This is a word to avoid when reviewing screening results. The term below the cutoff is the preferred language to use. This is the scoring graphic to help with the visual interpretation of the ASQ SE2 results. It's important to understand the graphic score interpretation is different than the ASQ3. Below the cutoff means the child's social emotional development appears to be on track, and the ASQ SE2 score indicates no or low risk. The monitoring zone for an ASQ SE2 begins at 70 points on the 60-month interval questionnaire and ends at the cutoff of 95 points. Any child with a score greater than 95 is recommended to be referred for further assessment. Please recall from Module 1, when interpreting the ASQ3 and the ASQ SE2 results, cultural values and parenting practices may impact a child's performance on these different activities, like feeding and dressing, reading and writing, playing with toys, or playing with sports. Let's listen as Mary Alice Watts Hatfield reviews the Kansas ASQ Online Training Information Summary Sheets. To see the entire video, please go to the URL listed at the top of the slide.
Let's take a closer look at the ASQ3 Information Summary. Section 1 of the ASQ3 Information Summary, shown in the top image, displays the cutoff, the total score, and a graph of where the child's score falls for each area. In Section 3, in the bottom image, the scores shows how to interpret these scores. If the score is in the light area, it is above the cutoff, and the child's development appears to be on schedule. If the score is in the gray shaded area, it is close to the cutoff, and the child is in the monitoring zone. If the score is in the dark shaded area, it is below cutoff. Section 2 of the ASQ 3 Information Summary, shown in the upper image, displays the parent responses in the overall section. In Section 9, shown in the lower image, is if the yes or no response is capitalized, follow-up and further discussion may be required. Section 4 of the ASQ3 Information Summary is where you can document any follow-up actions that will be taken. In ASQ Online, the follow-up is interactive and tasks can be created for tracking purposes. Section 5 of the ASQ3 Information Summary displays the individual responses to the ASQ3 questionnaire items. Now let's review the information summary for ASQ SE2. Section 1 of the ASQ SE2 Information Summary shows the total number of points on each page of the questionnaire and the total score. It also shows the questionnaire interval, the monitoring cutoff score, the referral cutoff score, and the child's ASQ SE2 total score. Section 2 of the Information Summary shows a graph of the scoring areas. An X marks where the child's total score falls. If the child's total score is in the light area, it is below the cutoff, and social-emotional development appears to be on schedule. If the child's total score is in the gray shaded area, it is close to the cutoff, and the child should be monitored. If the child's total score is in the dark shaded area, it is above the cutoff, and further assessment may be needed. Section 3 of the Information Summary notes the number of items marked concern and records the overall responses from the parent. Any items marked yes may require follow-up and further discussion. Section 4 is where you can select follow-up referral considerations regarding the ASQ SE2 screening. Section 5 is where you can document any follow-up actions that will be taken. In ASQ Online, the follow-up is interactive and tasks can be created for tracking purposes. The ASQ SE2 Information Summary doesn't include a list of the individual responses as the ASQ3 Information Summary does. However, you can print out the ASQ SE2 Item Response Sheet. The Item Response Sheet includes the item score, concern score, and any notes for all items of the ASQ SE2 questionnaire, as well as the overall responses. If you want to review the specific items that the parents marked as a concern without having to print the entire questionnaire, this sheet is a good resource to use.
Generating a report for students in your classroom may be a helpful way for you to organize your students' strengths and needs. So let's listen as Mary Batts Hatfield describes how to do this.
Now we're going to switch to the ASQ3 Screening Scores Report. Right here. And we're going to go ahead and run this without making any changes or adjustments. All right, the report's been generated, so I'm going to download it in CSV. I'm going to open it with Microsoft Excel. All right, here we go. So if I click on that corner block and double click on the headings, it opens up each one. So you can see each column. The next thing we're going to do is hide columns B through K. Whoops. And what I'm doing is I'm highlighting. So I started with the first one over to K, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to click on hide. All right, so that just leaves me with the names and the scores. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight A, L, and M, which is the child name, the communication score, and the communication cutoff. And then I'm going to click on Insert. All right, and I am going to insert a line chart. Okay. And if you hover over, you can see which one is the line chart. And there we go. Whoops, I changed my mind. So I am going to do, let's see, combo. And I'm going to use this. All right, so this right here is my chart. So if you pick it up, pull it down. I'm going to pull it down here a little bit. And I was going to, here we go. All right, so we're going to make it bigger. So you just want to grab it until you see that arrow. So this is the chart. You can change the name of it. So I made it bigger, and this chart shows the cutoff score, which is the orange line, and each student's communication score, which is the blue bar. So you can easily see who is below and above cutoff. So each child, you can see the names here. You can go in and change this chart title, change it to something relevant like ASQ Communication Scores. All right. So now it's been named. And you have a pretty little chart that shows that information just at a glance.
In Module 3, we will look more closely at what to do in terms of parent conversation and follow-up activities. This slide provides overall recommendations for both the ASQ3 and the ASQ SE2 in terms of interpreting the results. To further practice analyzing the ASQ data, please examine handout number 2 and the case study of a given child, and think about your parent conversation. Lastly, as was noted, this website is a helpful resource for Kansas early childhood educators who want further information.